I don't know why I'm like this. Literally running on 3 hours of sleep. Like, how come I can never execute a point or get to like a purpose of whatever I'm saying, or I'll start something and then I'll just like go on a completely different topic and I just never actually make it back to the original point that I'm trying to make. And then I realized my Mars is in Gemini. So firstly, if you're watching this video, you're probably like, why is she wearing the same shirt that she wore in the first video? I do have other clothes. I just, this shirt's really comfy and like I washed it. I want to put more focus on moon signs because I feel like that really is like your emotional drive and it's gonna resonate with you more strongly than I feel what your sun placement would. So this can be applicable for sun and moon signs, but I'm just going to be mostly emphasizing moon signs. That way it's more like easy to get the hang of. I don't know. Gemini moon placement people, they're really animated. They talk so much and they're so excited about life and about learning new information and about new things. Newness is kind of attached to this placement, I feel, in the sense that they constantly are seeking something updated with the new, with like what's happening, what's going on in the world, always like up to date. Definitely very charismatic, has no problem fitting in with any group of people. You will never see like a Gemini sun or moon placement struggling to really find out who they are or what they're doing. Underneath that, they are a little bit more uncertain. Gemini moon people are just, they navigate through life with so much resilience and so much energy. They're able to honestly do anything that they set their mind to, and I believe that they genuinely shock people with how capable they are as human beings, because I feel like they're so imaginative that I feel people can take them for granted or they can underestimate them, and then they do a 180 and they do something that you completely do not expect, but find yourself respecting in the long run. And that's definitely how I view Gemini moon people. And that can be definitely for Gemini sun people as well. I feel like nothing I said was solely towards Gemini moon people. I think the only difference I can think of is that Gemini moon people aren't so caught up in their need for like a style or a brand or an aesthetic. Gemini sun people can sometimes get very caught up in needing like a very unique aesthetic or a persona, or feel not that they have to perform, but that they have to be worth noticing. And Gemini moon is more about self-expression in a way of communication, and I don't feel like they're strongly more like appearance oriented as sun placements would be. 3 hours of sleep. Next we have Aquarius. They have such a strong confidence about them that it's really attractive, and not even on like a sexual level, just like a pure like human level of admiration. Like I find myself constantly really looking up to them, even if they're younger than me. I don't know. They're just really self-assured. They have a very confident way of holding themselves around other people, and it's almost like even if they are afraid of a situation, they will not let you see that. They'll go into a situation and be completely self-assured and kind of like they're playing poker where they just don't reveal all of their cards at once. You never fully see all the cards that they're holding, and I feel like they like that because they need to be mysterious and somewhat of that Scorpio energy. They like being, dark and interesting and not fully above surface level. They have such a noticeable barrier between them and the rest of the world. They come off very almost reserved and guarded. I don't want to say defensive, but I've noticed that they can be very quick to kind of push out other people from like a safety net that they have built for themselves to like stay in. It can be extremely hard to kind of get through that barrier and feel like you're making a genuine connection. And I do feel like a problem with a lot of Aquarius sun moon placements is that they feel they're giving you more than they actually are, or that it actually comes across, and then the other person doesn't really feel like they're getting anything in return. So it's kind of this like tug of war. It's almost like a Venus retrograde person, because they're just so sheltered, and I do feel like their fear of rejection or fear of not being good enough or fear of being embarrassed is greater than their desire to make those connections with people. Now, this could totally only apply to undeveloped. I don't want to be sitting here and spinning this off and have someone who is deeply developed and philosophical and mature to hear this and be like, what? I'm completely open to relationships. This is not for you then. But I just feel like that is something that I've noticed. Maybe there's an interest between like being curious about Aquarius people because they're so closed off in a way, but they're also really great advocates and humanitarians. And I know that everyone always says like they're out protesting with pickets. But even if they're not doing some big political agenda, I feel like they're always trying to speak up for the greater good, whether it's like a coworker who's just trying to like stand up against like an unjust boss, or like a good friend who just like is trying to protect you. They're extremely protective when they care about someone, and I don't feel like that's talked about enough. I know we hear about Leo loyalty, but we don't really hear about Aquarius loyalty. And coming from a Leo, sometimes I feel like that's a lot more valuable to have an Aquarius be loyal to you, because it's so rare and they're so selective with who they actually keep around them. And I don't think that's talked about enough. Sign, and when they develop and become more confident and comfortable in who they are, they do amazing things. We have Ellen DeGeneres, we have Oprah, and yeah, those aren't Aquarius moon placements, but you get what I'm saying. Like, that's Aquarius energy, that's Uranus energy, you know, and I feel like that's not talked about enough. So next we have Libra. I feel like this is such a short video. You guys are probably rolling your eyes because you're like, you're a Leo, you have to say that. But no, actually my Venus is in Libra, so I feel it on like a personal level, okay? Everyone talks about Libra and the tilting scale and balance and yada yada. And I'm seeing like lots of content where it's like, oh, they're like Regina George. They are super nice and fake and super polite and unrealistic expectations. But like, let's unpack this for a second, because hold on, like Libra moon and sun placements, or Venus, genuinely want the best for themselves and for everyone around them. And you have to remember, like, you should don't feel bad for them, but protect them, because their sister sign is Aries. And I feel like there is a correlation between, yeah, Libra needs balance, but Libra also feels like they're always searching for balance because they're constantly at war with themselves, and they're constantly in between either giving too much or too little. And I feel like it makes them feel genuinely bad because they're constantly nervous that either they're not getting enough out of life or they're not giving enough. And like, to feel both of those things at once all of the time must be exhausting. And I don't feel like we discuss that enough, because it's more like, oh, tilting scale, like weights, but but what are you saying? Like, okay, balance, sure, but let's talk about the balance. Let's talk about why it is that way. Because they so badly just want things to be pleasant, and they just want constant narrative of like etiquette and manners. I feel at times they can be passive aggressive or come off passive aggressive because they don't want to ruin anything or rock the boat or give off any bad waves or signals to people, because they just don't want to disrupt any pleasantries. And I feel like they constantly need things to be pleasant and peaceful because they are ruled by Venus. They want that constant beauty. They want the pleasantries. They things to just be nice and happy. And I do feel like they seek happiness and they want happiness for themselves and for others. But I also feel like they have a hard time channeling their energy at times correctly in a way to get what they actually want. And that's why they end up in this catch-22 of constantly overtaking something or not getting enough out of something. They're very humble, they're very quiet, they're very peaceful people when developed, but if they're not developed, they're definitely more aggressive, definitely more sarcastic, definitely stereotypically fake. And it's not that they are two-faced or are trying to be fake. I think it's just the fact that they aren't confrontational at times because they just don't feel like it's worth disrupting the peace, and they would rather just remain pleasant even if they feel like you're rude or that you've offended them, because they just don't feel like it's worth it. They don't feel like you are worth it. I feel like now for closer people in their life, they'll probably be more vocal and more comfortable, but that's just with anyone. If you feel comfortable, you'll be more vocal. Very focused on their appearance. I feel like that is just a Venus energy kind of influence. They just need to exert beauty in every aspect of their life. If you feel like I wasn't that talkative, I'm sorry. I tried. Anyways, just to drag on this video because that's why you guys came here. You guys came here to watch me eat food. I know it. Gonna talk astrology and eat some food. Kathleen Lights did this and she called it a bok choy? Bok choy? I don't know. I guess some people hate it. So if you hate it, fast forward. But if you want to talk astrology with me, because it's almost like you're here. And everyone gets really scared about retrograde seasons or periods. I get, but like, it's intimidating to feel like you can't speak clearly or concisely or get a point across or articulate a thought. But I don't feel like people appreciate retrograde enough. Like, I personally thrive during my Mercury retrograde season thinking, but I take that time to read books and just like look around the world and think to myself and analyze and form new perspectives and opinions and ideas on things. And I feel like that's so important because it's almost like you're giving your mouth a break and your mind a moment to catch up. It's literally like a phase of genuinely just thinking before you speak. Mercury is going in retrograde in Aries, right? I know when it goes direct or right before retrograde, it's going to be like in Aries. It's going to be wild. I feel bad for all like the earth people and the water people. Because when we have a lot of fire energy in the stars, it's a lot easier. I was about to eat egg. I don't know if it's like my grand fire trine or what, but I don't want to eat the yolk. But I've noticed that like there's a lot of fire transits in the sky. I feel like hella peaceful and zen. And then when there's like a lot of water transits, I die. I really do. I literally turn into Drake's unreleased love songs. Every time there's an earth transit, I'm like, damn, do y'all really live like this? Like, is this why they're so angry all the time? I'm just kidding.